All right, thanks for joining us on this edition of Wisconsin Places Are Cool. We're going to do a little podcast for you here, and hopefully you enjoy it. So we are going to take a look at one of Milwaukee's iconic shopping malls, at least for many decades, and that is Northridge Mall. That was off of Brown Deer Road and 76th Street. I was just over there the other day for work in an adjacent building, and I was watching how they were actually tearing down the old Northridge. It was pretty amazing, actually, not in a good way. But some things change, I guess. So we want to go over what happened in Northridge Mall and go over a little bit of the history and then talk about maybe what happened in terms of its demise. There's probably some things that you can easily guess. Times change, of course, but we'll dive into that real quick. And just to let you know my background, so I am a Southsider, historically speaking. So my first mall experience was actually Southgate Mall, which I believe was the first closed mall in the state of Wisconsin. That's on 27th Street, just south of Oklahoma, near Our Lady Queen of Peace Church, which is still there. And now there's a huge Walmart there instead, which I think is doing rather well, actually. But as I aged and got into elementary school, middle school, high school, we hung out at Southridge Mall, which was basically the twin of Northridge. And I remember they had a fountain in the middle of the mall that was really cool and some neat things. We had a movie theater. Farrell's comes to mind, and there were the anchor stores. It was just a great place. My wife grew up in Cedarburg, and that is definitely an area that people went to Northridge Mall to enjoy shopping and entertainment and, again, being mall rats and socializing and meeting up with friends and stuff. So let's dive into Northridge Mall. We'll include some pictures and videos, and hope you enjoy this podcast. So the grand opening of Northridge Mall occurred in August of 1972, 2 years after its sister mall, Southridge Mall, opened in 1970. Now, I'm getting this information from Wikipedia, and I'm going to bounce around a little bit with my sources here. So, both malls were financed and owned by Senator Herb Kohl and part of the Taubman Centers. Northridge Mall was co-developed with the nearby Northridge Lakes development, a residential development consisting of a mix of inventive multifamily residences in concert with a planned Northern Beltline freeway, which would have connected the area to the rest of the Milwaukee area. Now, I just want to add, at that point, when I was living actually in Greenfield, that Northridge Lakes development was considered ritzy, I guess, for lack of a better term, that people were well off who were living there. So, and Brown Deer in general was considered, at least by us in the South Side, a really nice place to live. So the pioneering mall was planned and designed as a regional center consisting of a two-level mall with 4 anchors. And can you guess what those were? Anybody remember? J.C. Penney, and a lot of those are still around. Sears, I believe they are completely gone. Boston Store, which, by the way, they just started tearing down that Boston Store location over at Brookfield Square just a few weeks ago. And then finally, Gimbels. Yeah, the classic Gimbels. Along with a UA or United Artists Theaters triplex, which expanded to 6 screens, which is incredible. Now, Marshall Fields came to Northridge in 1987 as part of their acquisition of 5 former Gimbel stores, and then they sold their store to H.C. Prangy in 1988, which in turn, if you remember, became Yonkers in 1992. Yonkers then closed in 1999. Now, again, according to Wikipedia, the mall declined within the decade after as the freeway revolts of the 1970s ended up canceling the North Freeway, intended to complete the Milwaukee Beltline. And if you want my opinion, you haven't asked, but we went a little bit freeway crazy at that point. So things like the Park East and Park West freeways were shut down. The Park East would have been a disaster. It would have actually connected the area by Fiserv Forum all the way to the lakefront and would have taken out essentially Juneau Park by the lakefront and made it one big freeway. But I digress. So, without that freeway, leaving those intended to go to the Northridge Mall on miles of the surface street, Brown Deer Road, and saying that there were other shopping options that were developing. So, hey, why hop on Highway 100, Brown Deer Road, and have to deal with traffic and so forth when you can just go to the new malls that were opened up. And indeed, my wife being in Cedarburg or the folks in Grafton, Mequon, there were new shopping aspects coming to them. And so, hey, why go to Northridge, right? Another thing, crime around the general area also increased. And there was some alarmism involved for sure, but a big nail in the coffin, that's probably a terrible metaphor to use, was the Jesse Anderson case. He ended up murdering his wife in the Northridge Mall parking lot. I believe he stabbed himself to make it look like a robbery gone wrong. And later on, it was discovered that Jesse Anderson indeed took care of his wife by himself and stabbed himself. And that whole setup came out later on. But there was certainly people saying, I'm not going to go to that mall. There's violence. Somebody just got murdered in the parking lot, even though that story was completely made up. Also, suburban shoppers chose other options with easy freeway access, such as Mayfair Mall, Brookfield Square, which, if you take a look at Brookfield Square, it's not looking pretty right now. I think they are surviving solely on Barnes & Noble and the restaurants that they have put in around the mall. And they also have power center shopping options, like I said, in Mequon, Grafton, Menominee Falls. The final blow to the mall was the early 2000s recession, which saw a number of tenants pull out after their lease expirations. And the mall's owner was unable to find new ones outside of local small businesses. Now, I know a lot of people have said, hey, Amazon and delivery services really knocked out malls in general, and they certainly have, but Northridge, a little bit, but that was kind of early. Northridge actually got kind of knocked out of the game before Amazon became, the beast that it is in retail. So one thing I wanted to add too, I had really not frequented Northridge, like I had said earlier, but I wanted to take a look. I wanted to see where had my wife hung out as a kid, and got excited to go see Santa and go see movies and all that fun stuff. And so I went in there, and it must have been late 90s, and I actually got choked up, which is kind of funny because why would I get choked up about a shopping mall? But I guess it just brought back memories that I had with my family and my friends at Southridge. And to see Northridge decayed to what it was at the time that I walked through it, there probably, as I counted, about one retail store still in existence for every two that were vacant. So literally like only 1 out of 3 of those mall arteries and mall locations in terms of stores were still around. It was just really sad. What I ended up seeing was either young kids from the neighborhood or old people who were getting steps in the mall. And neither one of those are going to be able to support the financial stakes that a Northridge Mall takes. So anyhow, I hope you've enjoyed some of the pictures that we've had come across the screen as well. One can only hope that the mall location rises like a phoenix from the ashes. In fact, that's somewhat quite literal, since the mall over the last several years has had a number of fires and just become, honestly, a safety hazard for the community. But they're in the middle of deconstructing it, and let's hope that something great rises from there. So just wanted to say thank you for joining us on this podcast. Wisconsin places are cool. We'll hope you subscribe and listen regularly. And please add any comments or thoughts that you have in the comments section below. Thanks. Keep exploring.